Happening now, major flooding prompted evacuations in Fredonia after a severe thunderstorm rolled through the region. A food drive that helped thousands in years past is in need of volunteers.
And I'm Chief Forecaster Dakota Hunter. We had some wild weather last night. We calmed down for the week, but we got that S word in the forecast for late this week. We'll talk about it coming up.
We'll talk about the NBA and the New York Knicks. Kristaps Porzingis putting on quite a show at the Garden on Sunday. Highlights of that next.
And a local political candidate is in studio today as we count down to election 2017. That's news now for Monday, November 6th, 2017.
Live and on demand from the Chautauqua Audio Works studios in downtown Jamestown. This is your source for breaking news. WNY News Now.
And thanks for joining us. I'm Justin Gould. Our top story, major flooding led to evacuations last night here in Chautauqua County. Chief Forecaster Dakota Hunter is here with a first look at the damage. Hey, Dakota.
Hey, Justin. Yeah, we had some very wild weather last night. Of course, we were here in the Weather Center just watching all that for you. Now, we had the main concern was pretty much flooding rain, and here are the rain totals that we received so far from the Weather Service. Mayville is the winner with 3.37 inches. That is a 24-hour rain total, and that really is some pretty heavy rain. Sinclairville with 3.22, Finley Lake with 2.52, and Silver Creek with 1.68, but we're not done. We have more rainfall totals that came in. The Dunkirk Airport, a little over 1.5 inches. Kennedy, 1.35. Jamestown officially at 1.23. And Frewsburg at 0.80. So you can see how the rainfall totals kind of varied across the region. But man, some of that heavy rainfall that came down definitely led to some flooding issues. This is the radar estimated rain totals. And I know it's a little hard to kind of understand the color code here. So kind of this reddish, pinkish color really is indicative about 1.5 to 2 inches. When you get up into this kind of this white area, that's about 2.5 to almost 3 inches of rainfall. And again, this is radar estimated totals based on radar algorithms, so your actual observed total could very well have varied. And we also had a possible tornado that came through Erie yesterday. We just had everything just flying out everywhere. This is the radar velocity signature. Now, velocity is the wind pattern that goes on in the storm, and this is the half-degree slice from the Buffalo radar. It's the closest. And what we're looking at is this spot right here, kind of where you see the blue and the green coming together. That's called the velocity couplet. And that is where we start looking for possible rotation within that storm. And again, that red polygon is the tornado warning that was in effect for Erie County last night. And this rotation signature actually did tighten up on a couple different volume scans. And now the one problem we have is Erie County is in a very bizarre situation. You could look at this from several different radars, and the radar beams are just way off the ground. So we don't know for sure if this was down, but the velocity signature did tighten up, and there were reports of damage that came out of this. And again, we don't know for sure if a tornado did come down. The National Weather Service is sending out storm survey teams today to figure out exactly what happened and if that was indeed a tornado. And let's do a Peg the Geek Meter segment because I think this is fun. This is called a mesolow, and you can see right here, and it kind of has like little eye wall in it right here, and there's a little circulation in it. Basically, this is very bizarre. We usually don't see this around here, and especially this well defined, but a mesolow essentially is a mesoscale convection that is embedded within a low pressure system, and it's often indicative of severe weather when you start seeing things like that. And the potential of severe weather often does increase ahead and behind the mesolow. So that in itself is very cool. We usually don't see that, especially around here. That was very interesting to see on radar. So man, we had flooding, we had possible tornadoes, we had damaging winds, we had it all. But the good news is we don't have any of this for a while. I'll have that full First Defense 7-day forecast coming up in a little bit, and the S word comes in there. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. Back to you, Justin.
All right, Peg the Geek. Interesting. First time I've heard that. Thanks, Dakota. Well, County Executive Vince Horgan says that we've seen the damage that we're pretty much going to see since the storm is over with, but he's crediting the actions of the community's first responders. We spoke to him earlier today.
A director team that was out there, and at this point we're collecting dollar amounts to see what the damages really were. There were some road washouts and that type of thing, and Route 60 temporarily was down to one lane and I believe that's now back to normal flow. So a lot of activity last night, but we see things coming back to normal.
Now, Horgan does not think that the damage is enough to qualify for any federal emergency relief funds. Our storm coverage takes us to Erie now, where 2 people died after the foundation of a home collapsed there last night. This after heavy thunderstorms and rain barreled through the city. Erie Fire Chief Guy Sandstrom spoke with Erie News Now on scene.
The water in this intersection built up to the point where it breached the basement wall on this structure right here, and there were 2 individuals inside when the wall collapsed and the water rushed in, and they were confirmed missing. And our firefighters were able to search, and we found 2 victims.
A fire department scuba team was called to the scene there to determine if anyone was inside the home. That's when they discovered the bodies. To add insult to injury, Erie police are now investigating a robbery that occurred there. Officials say 2 TVs and 3 firearms were stolen from the scene. Straight ahead, a local businessman who leads a food drive every year is asking for some community support. And later on, a candidate for city council at large, Vanessa Weinert, is in studio. That and more coming up.
EagleZip.com is your local one-stop shop for all of your home and business computer needs. Located on Fluvanna Avenue Extension, just outside of Jamestown, EagleZip.com sells and services all brands of desktops and laptops, as well as servers and network equipment for your business. All new computer sales include transferring your data from your old computer plus a 2-year warranty. Call EagleZip.com today.
Stop by EagleZip.com today and let us make computers easy for you.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
One of my favorite quotes is from Benjamin Franklin, and that is, well done is better than well said. I've tried to live by that philosophy.
I'm Bill McFadden, and I'm standing in front of my new Honda dealership. I encountered a number of obstacles. I reached out to George Barillo. George was amazing. He connected me properly with the right officials and the people that could get things done. You can see the results of what George Barillo did. George Barillo gets things done.
And welcome back. A food drive that's helped fed thousands of people in the past year is in need of help. Our Ryan Hedrick with the story.
The holidays can be a terribly painful time for many people. Nobody knows this better than Justin Lindell. He owns the business behind me, the Q Bar. Several years ago, he launched an initiative called Giving Thanks by Giving Back. Last year, he fed over 2,000 needy families in the Jamestown area. He says he's learned over the course of time that the initiative not only helps the community, but it helps the people who get involved.
I started doing it, that was the thing, is how it made me feel, and I put a post on Facebook a couple years ago, maybe last year, thanking everyone for coming out and helping, and, at some point, I let people know that you're helping other people, but at the same time, you're almost helping yourself, if anyone that's ever done a good deed for somebody else, the feeling that it gives you inside to help others, that's, for me, that carries me through. So, I might be helping other people, but at the same time, I'm kind of helping myself. And, that's, for me, that's what it's about. And I challenge anyone that comes out and helps. I get thank yous from people, weeks after saying thank you for letting me help out. I get as many thank yous for letting people help as I do thank yous for the meals.
Lindell tells me that several days ago, he posted a message on his Facebook page asking for support for this year's initiative, which is set to launch in just a couple of weeks. On Friday night, one person showed up.
Every year throughout the year, I could go back through Facebook or my text message or just people I run into. All year long, I got people coming up to me going, when you do that Thanksgiving thing again, I'm going to help you. I want to help you. And I would not be exaggerating if I said at least 100 people over the last year have said that to me. And today is our first meeting. I got one person here. It's one of my best friends, Lee. And he's here to help out. He's here to help in any way he can. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't know if maybe people didn't know about the meeting or if people don't know. Even last year you were a big part of it last year. You helped out from start to finish yourself. And we had 5, maybe 6 people at the first meeting, and I think 3 or 4 stuck through to help the whole way through. And the day of the event, we got the volunteers to deliver. Those came out in handfuls that day. It was a lot of volunteers that day. But the very start, it is taxing, it is hard. So maybe some people think, I don't know where I'll fit in or where I'll be a help. But we need help. So anyone that could. But you were here from the start of the last year, and you saw, how it started and all the way through the whole process. It's a lot, and we could use help. Me and Lee aren't going to be able to do it ourselves, I promise you that.
Lindell says despite the lack of support that he received on Friday, Giving Thanks by Giving Back will roll on, nearing its 10th year. And again, last year he fed over 2,200 families. Reporting from the Q Bar, I'm Ryan Hedrick, WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
Ryan, thank you. Lindell says he's still looking for volunteers. Feel free to contact him on Facebook for more information. Republican candidate for county executive George Borrello blames the delay of the groundbreaking for Dunkirk's Ethenix plant on a political move from Albany. Borrello spoke with us last week.
I will give the governor credit where credit is due. But what bothers me is there are still things that become political. And the fact that we haven't put a shovel in the dirt ceremonially, I might add, for Ethenix in the north end of the county is absolutely political. We had a groundbreaking ceremony scheduled in August. Then we got a phone call from the governor's office delaying it to September. And then we got another phone call delaying it till October. And then we finally got a phone call saying, well, you know what, we're just going to have to do it after the first of the year. It makes absolutely no sense to do a ceremonial groundbreaking in Dunkirk in January, other than if you want to be past the election. And what in my opinion is they don't want to, and this is not necessarily Governor Cuomo himself. I'm sure he doesn't really even give a damn about me or my opponent, to be quite honest. This is probably someone further down the line who's saying we can't have any good news happening in Dunkirk before an election.
Now, Borrello says even though an official groundbreaking hasn't taken place, work is still underway there. Crews are clearing lands, taking ground samples, and preparing to lay foundation.
Now, your First Defense Forecast with Dakota Hunter.
Well, happy Monday, everybody, if there is such a thing as a happy Monday. Let's take a look at First Defense Doppler to kick off the weather segment today. And dry scans across western New York today. That is good news, and that's quite a difference from where we were yesterday when we had just severe thunderstorms all over the place and flash flooding and woo, man, the radar got to work out yesterday. And I wanted to mention this because a lot of people will see this little return here that's in Wyoming County. And a lot of people will see that and say, oh, it looks like rain. It's rain. No, it's actually not. What this is this is interference coming off the wind turbines. There's a wind farm I think it's near Batavia. And there's a wind farm out here. And the radar itself is located at the Buffalo Airport. And because of the close proximity of the wind farm to the radar beam is bouncing off the wind blades and it's returning back on radar. So that's the reason that it looks a little like that. Now onto the graphic system, and I'll show you the Chautauqua Lake Sky Vision camera. Choppy water out there, kind of gray skies. We still have the cloud cover hanging around, but good news is at least we don't have any of that severe weather. 43 out there in Liquid right now with a dew point of 40. Take a look at the winds. Northwest 14, gusting around 25. Daily rain total a little more than a quarter of an inch there at the Skycam there in Chautauqua Lake. Now, on the surface analysis map, this is the front that came through last night that brought us all the rain and the thunderstorms and the flooding as well. That's now hightailing toward the east. But what we're watching, and this could very well change, keep in mind, what we're watching is Arctic air is going to be dragged with the jet stream across Canada, and we're going to be talking about Arctic blast coming out. I don't really want to use the term Arctic blast, but that's kind of technically what it is. And it's going to be dragged across the Great Lakes into our region. That's going to drop our temperatures, and we're going to potentially see the coldest air we've seen so far this season come later in the week. The temperatures right now at the airport locations across the region, not too bad. We got 40 at Jamestown, 45 in Dunkirk, 46 in Erie, 46 at Buffalo, 47 up in the Falls, 37 down there in Olean. But of course, you're down in the valley, so it's going to be a little bit chillier down there. So all in all, not too much spread in the temperature ranges out there today. Weather almanac for today, your sunset time, can you believe this, comes up at 5:04 this afternoon. It's getting sooner and sooner now since we're on standard time. Sunset, sunrise tomorrow morning, 6:57 in the morning. The record for this date is 73, set in 1956. Safe for one more year. Lake temperatures, 55 degrees off Buffalo and Lake Erie and 54 degrees on Lake Ontario off the coast of Rochester. Your First Defense forecast for today, early showers today, otherwise just a pretty cloudy day. High temperatures will be in the upper 40s with a pretty healthy northwest breeze, 10 to 14. And then for tonight, partly to mostly cloudy skies, a bit chilly, down to 31. Some of the colder pockets in the valleys could easily end up in the upper 20s. So you might want to turn that heat on and have that jacket ready if you're going to be going out tonight. And then for tomorrow, chance for a few rain or snow showers early on. Otherwise, mostly cloudy skies again. Highs going down a little bit more. We'll go into the lower 40s with a healthy northwest wind, 4 to 8 miles an hour. Beautiful shot of the raging Niagara River. 7 days of your life here on planet Earth. And on Wednesday, we become partly sunny with that high of 45, but we bring in more sunshine on Thursday. That's on Friday, actually Thursday night going into Friday. That's when we bring in that Arctic front. And that icon is snow, Justin.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. We bring in snow. Take a look at those temperatures. Lower 30s as highs. And take a look at that low on Friday night. Upper teens. This is going to be the coldest air we've seen so far this season. Ryan will have sports right out. Yes, Ryan will have sports right after the break, so stay with us.
WNY News Now is sponsored by Sound Rhythm Studio of Jamestown, partnered with Chautauqua Audio Works, offering lessons in Fredonia and Jamestown. Chautauqua Audio Works, where interest-free financing is just a phone call away. With coverage that matters, this is WNY News Now.
Hello, I'm Mike Ferguson with my wife Diane. I'm running for Chautauqua County Executive to bring leadership and positive experience to Chautauqua County. From the arena to Dietrich Park and the Jammers, we've had success. I'll bring jobs, battle drugs, and bring new revenue streams through development and growth. That will lower taxes. This is serious business, and it calls for strong, bold, innovative leadership and vision. Let me bring that to you, to us, the people of Chautauqua County, with your vote November 7th.
From the Foam Zone Sports Desk, I'm Ryan Hedrick. Here is the latest. The Phoenix Suns played last night in San Antonio, and given the events in Texas and the church shooting, more than 20 people died. Greg Popovich certainly didn't want to talk basketball after San Antonio Spurs walked away with a convincing victory.
Well, we won a basketball game, but consider everything that's gone on today, it's pretty meaningless. When you think about the tragedy that those families are suffering, it's just inconceivable and impossible to put your head around. So I think talking about basketball tonight is probably pretty inappropriate. So you guys have a good night.
On the court, the Knicks taking on the Indiana Pacers, and Kristaps Porzingis comes into Sunday's game against the Pacers, averaging 29 points a game. Here he is in the third quarter, taking over with a deep three-pointer. Now we go to the fourth quarter. Indiana leading 87-74. Corey Joseph with a cross-court pass to Young for a corner three, making it 90-74. New York down by 13 points in the fourth quarter. Tim Hardaway Jr. gets the pass in the lane and scores the layup. Porzingis hits the turnaround jumper and gets the foul. He made the free throw. And then Hardaway Jr. with the basket, making it 97-96 New York. Porzingis 40 points, 8 rebounds, 6 blocks. And the Knicks come back from 19 to win 108-101. To the NFL we go, where the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Chiefs. We pick it up first in goal. Dak Prescott rolls right and finds Cole Beasley for the 7-yard touchdown, making it Dallas 28, Chiefs 17. Later in the fourth quarter, 4th and 8, Alex Smith throws the pass downfield and is picked off by Jeff Heath. It's Smith's first interception thrown this year, and Dallas gets the win over the Chiefs 28-17. How bad are the New York Giants? The Giants are so bad that they're 1-7 this year. Fast forward in the Meadowlands to the third quarter, where the Rams leading by 31 points. Todd Gurley, a 4-yard touchdown run, making it 48-10 Rams. The Rams would go on to hand the Giants a 52-27 loss. Again, the Giants are 1-7. Ouch. Local scoreboard, and the JCC men's and women's teams split a pair at the basketball crossover at Corning, with the men falling 78-64 and the women winning 71-49. From the Phone Zone Sports Desk, I'm Ryan Hedrick, where it all unfolds here.
The Main Landing Restaurant. Excellent service, awesome food, and a beautiful view.
Everything's made fresh here. We love to be outside, and it's nice inside if it's raining, so we have a choice.
Locals and non-locals agree that the Main Landing is quickly becoming a destination.
It's just so casual, and just the food is amazing.
I love the hamburgers.
But I really like the tuna I had.
The Main Landing Restaurant. Excellent service, awesome food, and a beautiful view.
You're watching WNY News Now, your source for breaking news.
And welcome back to News Now. The countdown to Election Day 2017 is underway, and one of the young bright stars in our community is Vanessa Weiner, who's running for Jamestown City Council at large. Her resume includes marketing, strategic planning, and surveying. She joins us now in studio. Vanessa, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So first question, let's get started on your background a little bit and why you would run for city council.
Yeah, so I moved back to Jamestown about 6 years ago. I was born and raised here. I spent my entire life, my entire childhood here in Jamestown, New York, and had an incredible experience, an incredible childhood. And I was really happy to come back to Chautauqua County and come back to Jamestown, New York. We purchased property here, we're invested in our community. And for me, it's always been, I am who I am today because of growing up in Jamestown. I was able to go off and do amazing things. I have an undergraduate degree. I have 2 master's degrees. I've been able to travel the world. I've had some amazing experiences, amazing research experiences. And how can I bring that back and help my community that made me who I am today? So it was really about coming back to Jamestown, starting a family here, being able to find a really great job here, being at Chautauqua Institution and the director of marketing and analytics there. So really, build a life, and then how can I give back to my community?
So was there a specific event that kind of inspired you to run for city council, or?
Yeah, I could say that definitely looking at the current political climate, both locally and nationally, has definitely been a driving force. More along the lines that I truly believe that any sort of political engagement and civic engagement, right? That's part of being a really good citizen, right, is being engaged in the electoral process and being civically engaged. So it came down to how do we create an environment in which more women are running, more minorities are running, and that really starts at the local level. You really have to foster people to want to run for office. You can sit in a room of professional people and ask them to raise their hands. How many people here are interested in running? You may get one person to raise their hand. Right. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but I truly think that we need to talk about how we foster engagement. Because what happens is people then get upset about decisions that are being made, but they didn't vote or they're not engaged with what's happening in the process. And I didn't want to be another one of those people. So I started thinking about how can I become involved? Do I actually want to run, or do I want to support another candidate and be a part of that team? And it really came down to, I decided that I wanted to run. I want to make sure that we can foster engagement here at the local level. I want to see women elected across the board, both here and across the country. I think having equal representation is really important, and you have to foster that locally. Women tend to start running at school boards, city council, and this is, again, generically speaking, but many women are not necessarily going to jump into a state or national race. Right? You will statistically actually see men do that much more often than women. We have to foster that locally. So I'm hoping that I can help do some of that, when I'm elected tomorrow.
So if you are elected, do you have hopes then to jump to a bigger race in the future? I mean, county level, state level?
It's really so early to say. Right. I'm just dipping my toes in the water right now. I'm going to, this is the first campaign I've ever run. I've helped other campaigns in the past. I was treasurer in middle school. Vote Vanessa, back in 7th and 8th grade. So that was my first political campaign. I have to correct myself there.
So moving on to some other topics, we spoke with a lot of downtown business owners recently who, they're excited about projects like the National Comedy Center coming to fruition in our county, but at the same time, they've had a lot of problems over the last few years in downtown with getting people through their doors and just keeping their doors open in general. I guess, what would you say to them if you're elected? How would you help them further than they already are now?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So I think some of it is, how do we look at what is the makeup of the economy that we need here? And I truly believe, I think the National Comedy Center project is important. Tourism is important. I sit on the, I'm in the industry of tourism. Right. I also sit on the board for the Chautauqua County Tourism Bureau. So I'm very engaged in tourism here in Chautauqua County, which is obviously incredibly important and a big economic driver. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we are creating an economy in Jamestown that first and foremost serves our citizens. So what does that look like? Looking at how we create a diversified economy, right, where everyone starts to grow at the same time. You can't uplift one and not the other businesses. So you have to start to think, it's like, okay, so if we get more office buildings downtown, how can we then try to think about fostering or incubating a new business that has office supplies or things along those lines, where you start to really think strategically about this interconnected web of businesses that all can uplift each other. And I think sometimes we haven't always done that, where you have a really firm strategy. And here's the mix of businesses we need in downtown Jamestown to support what we want to see happen in downtown Jamestown. So for example, if we get more offices, not only do we need supply stores that are locally, because we know you run out of something and you don't want to always have to run to Lakewood or order something online, and we all want to support local. That's really important to a lot of downtown businesses, both here and in other, up and coming cities. That support local is really important. So on top of having some sort of supply store, even if it's a construction company, right, you need lumber supply yards, you need materials, all of that supports each other and making sure there's the right mix. But then if you have office buildings, you need restaurants and bars and, lunchtime spots. So they all kind of support each other. And then if you add tourism on top of that, then you get your specialty shops. You get your, they're kind of fun to make fun of, but everyone likes to go to them, like, a place that specializes in just grilled cheese or pickling things, things along those lines that you see really are popping up in Buffalo, or even places like Corning, New York, and, more specialty stuff that can cater to a tourism audience, but we need to make sure we have that firm foundation, that we support, local businesses first. We make sure their needs are met, especially downtown, but across the county, right? Because Jamestown it's not an island, it's part of a county. Right. So I think all of those really play into that. And then looking at how can we better position the BPU as an asset for new businesses. So this is something that I've been, it's not a totally full-baked idea yet, but you see this in some other areas where internet has been looked at as a public utility. Right. So how can we attract new businesses, especially offices, looking at the modern office environment, the culture has changed so much. So for example, a lot of places are getting rid of their brick and mortar buildings and people are working remotely. So they're looking for maybe small office spaces to get out of their homes. How can we tap into that market? And if you look at having a public utility company that is, owned by the city, owned by the taxpayers, and looking at new revenue sources for that public utility company, how can we look at internet as a public utility and then think about how we can use that to package rates and think about attracting businesses downtown? So there's a lot of different ways. It's not going to be solved overnight. It's a very complicated economic structure that we need that really makes a sustainable downtown. And a lot of work has been done. This is not to say that strategies haven't been put in place and people are already working towards these things. Right. But I think, always having fresh eyes on something, especially with, a strategy background, I think is incredibly important.
What would you say to someone who feels like they don't have a voice in local government and they're not going to go out and vote? What would you say to them?
That's a really good question. I think we have a problem in Chautauqua County. Local elections, 30% turnout, which is really low. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There's legitimate reasons for that. We've had a lot of uncontested elections. We've had a lot of uncontested races. We've had, the same people in office for a very long
the mayor
time.
Of Jamestown has been in office.
Yeah.
For, you can't even name the date.
I think there's some excitement right now. And I think that, I'm not going to sit here and say that people that are on city council need to be replaced or, you get out and vote and bring in new people, get rid of the old guard. I'm not going to say that. But I do think it's important to have fresh eyes. I think that's important in any position, whether it's local government or, sometimes in my own job, sometimes just like, you look at this for a second because I've been in it for too long and I need a fresh set of eyes to take a look and see if this is really working the way that we want it to work. So I think that's important. I also think, having younger people on city council is important. I have a 20-month-old daughter. I think, having young families represented on city council, thinking about how we make this city more family friendly and a place that people choose to raise their family, neighborhoods that they choose to live in. I think that's really important. So I think it's really exciting that we have some new candidates that are running. I think it's really important to vote for your county races. We have a county executive race as well as the Constitutional Convention. So there's a lot of things that I'm not going to tell people who to vote for, but I think, be informed. It's really important because what happens locally affects our day-to-day way more than what happens at the national level. If you want to look at your taxation, if you want to look at, housing, jobs, industry, the President of the United States has very little influence over what's happening here in Chautauqua County. That is your local elected officials. And we'll have great turnout for a presidential election, but very low turnout for a local election. And we need to start thinking about how we foster that engagement locally. And one of that is turning out for local elections, being engaged in that process, knowing your city councilmen and women, making sure that they answer your phone calls or you're part of that process. You feel like you're listened to, your voice is heard. I think all of that is incredibly important. So I've been pushing people to vote. I want everyone to vote, no matter, regardless of who they're going to vote for. I think it's really important that we all vote and that we stay positive. I'm very optimistic for the future of Jamestown. I've put firm roots here in Chautauqua County, and I'm excited to stay here. And I cannot wait to see what Jamestown looks like in 5 and 10 years.
All right, Vanessa Weinert. Vanessa, thank you for being on our
program
today.
Thank you.
And to learn more about Vanessa's story, you can find her on Facebook. Now let's check in with Chief Forecaster Dakota Hunter with a final look at our weather. Hey, Dakota.
Hey, let's take a look at that First Defense 7-day forecast one more time. Again, today we only bring in a 20% chance of a few rain showers. Otherwise, highs in the upper 40s. And then for tomorrow, again, another 20% chance of rain or snow showers early with highs going down into the lower 40s. Now, now toward Thursday night into Friday, as I told you earlier, we bring in that Arctic system that will drop our temperatures down. Take a look at those temperatures. Highs in the lower 30s for late in the week with the low temperatures. Take a look at that low temperature on Friday night of 19. This is going to be the coldest air we've seen so far this season. And that icon on Friday is snow showers. But the good news is at this point, now this could very well change, but at this point we expect very little accumulation out of that, probably an inch on the hills at most. But we'll keep you updated on that forecast right here.
All right, lighting the fire under you, Dakota.
Absolutely.
Got to get those snow tires on sooner than later. Thank you, sir. Well, that's news now for today. If you want to catch the full interview with Vanessa Weinert, you can head to our website, WNYNewsNow.com. We will have that for you in just a bit. And a reminder that election coverage continues tomorrow right here with News Now at 11:30. And then be sure to catch a special edition of News Now starting tomorrow night at 7 p.m. with live local coverage of Decision 2017. Have a great day.